and real America's voice. Go ahead, scan the QR code now.
Welcome in, everybody, to this latest edition of Just the News, No Noise. I'm your host, Amanda Head, and my co-host and Just the News editor-in-chief, John Solomon, is still out on assignment tonight. But I have a lot to get to, so let's start in Minnesota, where the Trump administration continues to work to ensure the safety of citizens in Minneapolis and across the country. But the left continues to push their inflammatory rhetoric regarding ICE. And I have another example for you tonight. Would you believe that Stephen Colbert recently went on air comparing ICE agents to Nazis? I'm sure you would, but here it is.
Vivino went on complaining.
Look, Dana, they're trying to portray Border Patrol agents and ICE agents as Gestapo, Nazi, and many other words.
Yes, do not compare ICE or Border Patrol agents to the Nazis. That's an unfair comparison. The Nazis were willing to show their faces.
Oh, goodness gracious. I need a little clarification here, though, Stephen. Are you suggesting that Nazis were somehow better than ICE agents? I'm pretty sure that's not a narrative that you want to run with. But it's not just coming from media types. Here's House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries calling for Kristi Noem to be put on ICE permanently.
Disgraceful. She's got to go. We are dead serious. She needs to be put on ICE permanently. She's got to go. And by the way, she's not the only one.
Now, listen, I'm not suggesting that he meant it this way, but putting someone on ICE is mob speak for killing them. But anyway, I like to give people the benefit of the doubt, and it might just be that figures like Hakeem Jeffries are misphrasing their thoughts or letting their emotions get the best of them. But so-called comedians like Stephen Colbert don't seem to be misphrasing anything. He appears to be quite serious. Now, fortunately, there is a silver lining. As we mentioned not too long ago, President Trump sent border czar Tom Homan to Minnesota, and it looks like things may be taking a turn for the better. Check it out.
I'm also pleased to announce I had a very good meeting with Attorney General Ellison, and he has clarified for me that county jails may notify ICE of the release dates of criminal public safety risks so ICE can take custody of them upon the release from the jail.
Okay, so those jails can report and coordinate. Now, whether they will is another story. But this is what happens when you have strong leaders like President Trump and Tom Homan. Not even a week in Minnesota, and Tom Homan is already winning. Now, let's see what the liberals have to say about this in the coming days. But I do want to welcome in our first guest of the evening. Now, earlier today, I got the chance to speak with Congressman Glenn Grothman. Please take a look. Welcome back, everybody. Another Schumer shutdown looms over the country following the death of an anti-ICE protester. And as you may recall, the previous Schumer shutdown lasted a historic 43 days. So why are Democrats seeking to shut down the government if it will only hurt the American people? Joining us now is someone who has been at the negotiation table many times before, Wisconsin Congressman Glenn Grothman. Congressman, thank you so much for being here.
Well, glad to be on the show.
Sir, let's start with the budgeting. Republicans did a great job getting the 12 appropriations bills wrapped up with a pretty little bow, and now Democrats are here again. Last time it was over Obamacare entitlements. Now it's over defunding DHS and ICE. Are we ever going to get to a place where Democrats are willing to sign on with Republicans and say, this is a great budget, let's go?
Well, it's kind of shocking the hill they've decided to fight on. So your listeners understand what the people back home would call a budget. Our budget is actually divided into 12 separate bills. President Trump has signed 6 of those 12 bills, and so those parts of the government will continue to go on. But there's 6 of the 12 bills that have not been signed, and the Democrats, apparently we need their votes because it takes 60 votes to get this done in the Senate. We need their votes, and they have decided not to give us their votes because they don't like funding ICE. They don't like to fund Homeland Security. I mean, it's just beyond belief. In this country, every year, we swear in over 800,000 new citizens. Okay, we right now are at the all-time high, or at least the all-time high for the last 140 years. We have 16% of our citizens were born abroad. So we do not have to apologize for not letting enough immigrants here. But the Democrats are mad that we're deporting people who came here illegally. They're even encouraging protesters who are upset if we try to kick out child molesters, armed robbers, everything. And I think of all the things as a politician, the last thing that I would try to defend is say we can't kick these people out. But that's the Democrat position. And if the government does shut down, and it looks right now like it is going to shut down, if the government shuts down, people have to realize it shut down because the Democrats do not want to fund the people that are removing the criminal class and people who came here illegally from our country.
And you guys did a great job the first time around, I think, messaging that it was Democrats who were throwing a wrench in it. And that's why so many people call it the Schumer shutdown. When it comes to what's happening in Minneapolis, because you guys are just one state over, so you're peering over the fence at the disaster that is Minneapolis. And it seems like things have softened a little bit this morning. It sounds like Mayor Fry and Governor Walz are going to allow some coordination with ICE. But they dug in for a while and basically were saying, you get your people out and we're not going to compromise. We're not going to work with you. That doesn't work, and it also doesn't look good for them because it just proves that everything they say is fake.
Well, right. And first of all, you have to realize, I don't think it's a coincidence that these two people who died, that happened in Minnesota, right? It happened because
Right.
Rule of insurgency that's followed in every other war that we've seen around the world in recent history. You need to take a step back and say there's more going on here than just people who are concerned about immigration and a hatred of ICE in their city. This is a coordinated insurgency, and this is part of the larger what I call the leftist ideological criminal enterprise, LICE. It's a part of that. And I think that what Kash Patel is saying now, which really touched me when I heard him say this, that they're going to start investigating these people as a criminal enterprise. You're going to start looking at this from that signal chat. I think it sparked a lot of people and woke people up to what we already know. So this is a good thing.
Absolutely. Before we get to Minneapolis, I want to ask you about earlier today on Capitol Hill, Secretary of State Marco Rubio sat before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and there was a lot of antagonistic questioning regarding the mission in Venezuela from Democrats. No surprise. But Jonathan, my question is to you. I mean, you're a former Navy SEAL. You have taken part in many, many missions that were strategic and tactical. So you have seen what a success looks like in a mission like this. If this was not a success, the fact that we went in, executed within hours, executed the mission successfully, we achieved our goal, which was extracting Maduro. We lost no American lives. We committed no American troops at the time or in the future. If that's not a success, what is?
Well, look, it is a success. I mean, that's what the American people have to realize. And Marco Rubio going up there, that's the problem with the left, is that they are just so good. I'm going to give them their props. They are so good at playing this game. I mean, they've been playing this game in the United States for hundreds of years, since the beginning. There's been leftists that are progressives, as they call themselves. But right now, actually, you still have people who were involved in the 50s and 60s that are still involved. The Weather Underground, all these different groups that were instigators and terrorists in the 60s and 70s, those people are still around, and they're highly involved in this. I mean, there's evidence out there. They just have to collect this evidence. And so
any immigration law enforcement. And of course, we should be removing that whole 8 or 9 million people that Joe Biden let in here unnecessarily. These people are not even for removing the criminal element that's coming in this country. I mean, can you imagine? And we're going to wind up with a government shutdown because the Democrats don't want to remove the criminal class from this country?
It is incredible. And sir, you and I were talking earlier, and you brought up the fact that you don't think Republicans are doing a good enough job in messaging, not only just how many illegal immigrants are in this country, but the crimes that these folks have committed. And I vividly remember when you came on our show 3 or 4 years ago, very early in the Biden administration, and you were a master messenger when it came to the minors who had been absorbed and lost into the interior of the country. So you did a great job with that. How do Republicans get the message out there that not only do we have way more illegal immigrants in this country than most figures estimate, but also that we're not talking about petty theft. We are talking about rape and violent assault and murder. These are not petty crimes.
Right. We have to talk about that's who they're prioritizing in Minnesota.
Yes.
And despite that, you have the protesters coming out, getting in the way. And I do think the Republicans have to talk more about all the people who are let in here legally. People say, well, they want to come to the United States. Well, we can't take an unlimited number of people. But I don't think you hear enough Republicans say that right now about 16% of our population is here or was born in another country. That's the highest it's been in at least since the 1800s. So, I don't think enough Republicans point out that somehow over 800,000 people every year find a way to be sworn in and become new American citizens legally. And we have to talk about these numbers so they realize these people are coming here legally, are doing so largely unnecessarily. It is also breaking up families. I was down at the border when this was going on. They let single parents in where the other parent is left back in El Salvador, Brazil, or what have you. And we just have to undo the damage the Biden administration did in its 4 years of having no immigration enforcement at all. But what we can see from this government shutdown is this is becoming the platform of the Democrat Party. We not only want no ICE agents, we want no immigration laws, just like we didn't have during the Biden years. We don't want to deport anybody, which is just ridiculous. And I hope the American population is intelligent enough, has enough common sense to realize we will not continue to exist as a country if we let everybody under the sun here.
Absolutely. Well, and I know a lot of people who voted for President Trump for deportations, and they didn't vote for him for, well, some of them can stay. Before I let you go, I want to ask you, I've seen comments from Congressman Mike Lawler, from former Speaker Newt Gingrich. There are some Republicans out there who are proposing amnesty options. To me, how is that any different from what Democrats have been wanting to do?
Well, that would be ridiculous. Right? I mean, you do not reward people who jumped ahead in the line, who came across the southern border and lied and said they need asylum by saying you get citizenship. I mean, how can, under any circumstances, you put that person ahead of the people who are some waiting 10 or 15 years to come here legally? No. Chrissy Noem has implied that the people who went back now, who weren't forced out, are someday going to get a path to citizenship. But that hasn't been determined yet. The first thing we have to do is make a big whack at that 8 or 9 million people who came here illegally under Joe Biden. And once we get a significant number of those people out of here, we can begin to talk about who we're going to let in, as we've always let people in this country, right?
Yeah. I mean, we are, as you talked about at the top of the show, we are the most generous country when it comes to immigration, but we want you to come in and we want you to sign the guest book, and we want to be able to know who you are, and we want you to assimilate. It's very, very basic, and it's what practically every other country requires. Wisconsin Congressman Glenn Grothman, sir, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right, everybody, we will have more for you on the other side of these messages.
Hey folks, it's your friend John Rich. I co-founded Old Glory Bank because we heard too many stories about people getting canceled by their bank because they didn't agree with their politics. The government wanted to know where you shop. If you bought a Bible or you shopped at a sporting goods store, you're probably on a list. We created Old Glory Bank because America needed a bank that would protect their privacy and security. Exercising your constitutional rights is not a criminal activity, and neither is loving your country. At Old Glory Bank, we stand with you.
I'm a J6er. I spent 1,143 days in prison.
About a year in prison.
We were prosecuted, persecuted.
J6ers have been treated like terrorists.
And we need your help.
Stand in the Gap was founded to stand in the gap for J6ers working to rebuild their lives after being incarcerated.
For just $10 or more, you can help these patriots get back on their feet again. Every dollar you give is being matched up to $50,000. Go now to j6support.com and donate today.
The radical left knows exactly what they're doing. They want to steal the election. We're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue, and we're going to the Capitol. They need to take back our country.
Events in Washington have taken a violent and tumultuous turn.
January 6th wasn't just a moment in history.
Welcome back, everybody. As we were talking about earlier, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer is threatening another government shutdown. He states, quote, because of Republicans' refusal to stand up to President Trump, the DHS bill is woefully inadequate to rein in the abuses of ICE. I will vote no. So what are the possibilities of a Schumer shutdown part 2? Joining us to discuss this and more, someone who's been in this fight many times before, former Congressman from Ohio, Jim Renacci. Congressman, thanks so much for being with us.
Amanda, thank you for having me.
All right. So Republicans did a pretty good job of getting at least 6 of these 12 appropriations bills. They seemed ready to move forward with it, but Democrats have hit Republicans like a clothesline again. What do you think is going to transpire?
Well, what's interesting, and again, I've lived through these, and I've lived through shutdowns as well. One thing I would give John Boehner credit for is that he didn't let us go home. And one of the real problems is the Republicans in the House did a great job. They got these bills passed, and then they left. And now, all of a sudden, the Senate's dealing with them. Senate can't get it passed. And even if they make changes, the House is going to have to come back and pass the changes. So that's the real dilemma right now, is that the House is not in session, the Senate is. The Senate's working through this. The Senate does not want to pass the Department of Homeland Security bill, but I do give all members of Congress some credit. They got all the other bills set up, teed up, and ready to pass. It's just the one bill, and Schumer is basically saying, look, we want some things done. We want some restrictions done. We want the ICE, anybody that's part of the ICE regime to have their face shown, and other things that I'm not sure are necessary. But Amanda, one thing I've learned about Washington when I was there, it's all about who has the leverage. And right now, Chuck Schumer believes he has the leverage, and he's going to try and use it as long as he can. The key will be, at some point in time, will the American people accept another shutdown? And I don't believe they will.
I don't think so either. And I want to ask you about that because you represented Ohio on Capitol Hill. You're still a multi-business owner there. So I know you have conversations with Ohioans, which used to be considered a swing state. Not anymore. It is pretty solidly red now. But as you're talking to these people, do they seem receptive to Chuck Schumer's demands? Does it seem like sentiment is swaying in the direction of limiting ICE's capabilities?
Yeah, I do think that there's some that believe, and I do like some of the interactional changes that were discussed. I think sending Holman there was a great answer by President Trump, to really help this situation. So I think some of the changes are what were needed and are going to help. But I think Ohioans, for the most part, and Amanda, Ohio's kind of a funny state, because even though we think it's a Republican state, I would call it a Trump state. Ohio's registered voters, 72% of them are independents. So even though we see ourselves as a Republican state, we really are a Republican-leaning state, because most of the independents do come across as a conservative base for many fiscal issues, for many issues. But remember, Ohio also lost the abortion issue when the independents went the other way.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's an interesting dichotomy there. What are the implications if there is another shutdown?
Well, I can tell you a shutdown is a losing venture for everybody, Republicans, Democrats, and the taxpayers. It does not help. We spend more money bringing things back to life, as I call it. So there's some serious problems. But the real problems that I keep talking about on a lot of the interviews is where we're going to end up in November. And I think the one thing, again, that I've learned in my time in Washington is that everything is political. So where does the shutdown, who does it benefit? Does it benefit Republicans? Does it benefit Democrats? That's exactly what somebody in a back room is thinking about today and tonight. Do we push this because we want to win, we being Republicans or Democrats, they want to win the majority. Republicans want to keep the majority, the Democrats want to win the majority. But what levers do we push and what leverage do we have? But none of them are good for the American people. That's the problem.
I want to go back to something you said a moment ago, Congressman, because it seems like culture has shifted on Capitol Hill significantly in the last 5 years or so. When you were talking about how I think you said Boehner would not let people go home, is the fact that Speaker Johnson is not in that camp, he will let people go home, is that a cultural shift? Why is that allowed?
Well, one thing I would tell you, back when I was there, when it was Boehner and even Paul Ryan, the Senate used to pull that on us all the time. The Senate would pass a bill and then take off. And they would call that jamming us. So they would jam us. And then we would sit there and say, we got to pass this thing. So we would end up passing a bill that we really didn't want to pass. So either the government could stay open. I think what the beauty of this is that Speaker Johnson has actually done that to the Senate. He's jamming the Senate. In the end, what frustrates me is jamming either side is not the answer. Getting the job done is the answer. But, the Speaker used the tactic of the Senate, which they used to, which is they're going to jam the House. Now the House has actually jammed the Senate, and it's forcing them to look at this bill that they passed and pass it. But it doesn't look like that's going to happen. I believe it failed today already. So, there's going to have to be changes, and the House is going to have to come back. Boehner would make us stay there, Speaker Boehner, because he would want us to pass it as soon as it came back.
Congressman, I want to pick your finance brain. I know you are a CPA and you were on the Ways and Means Committee when you served on Capitol Hill, and you have been speaking your mind about the tariffs. President Trump has, I'm not totally sure he's serious. He seems like he is, but you never know with him. But he's floated the notion of punitive tariffs on allies who are disagreeing with his stance on a possible takeover of Greenland. I know you want to see definitely a step back from that talk. Tell me about your thoughts on it.
Yeah, so I'm not a tariff guy, and when I was on Ways and Means, and even I was a big supporter of President Trump when I was there. I spoke to him about that. Tariffs could be used to negotiate. They should never be used as blanket weapons. So I do think especially when these are your friends and allies. I did an article the other day, and I wrote, friends are only friends until they don't become friends anymore. And that's a real issue as we see many of these countries saying, you know what, we're going to start going to China. We're going to start negotiating with China. We're going to start to come up and try and build trade relationships with China. That's a real problem if that would continue. So I'm hoping that we don't do this. I think using tariffs as a weapon is never good. Using it as a negotiation tool is great. And I think President Trump has done that a number of times. But when you use it as a weapon to force people to do things, that could come back to haunt us. And in the end, what I've said all along, American people pay the tariffs. That's the real issue. In the end, they end up in our pricing, in our costs, in our supply chain. And as long as the American people are willing to do that, I don't think they are, because I think there still is an issue of people having to, the affordability crisis is there, especially at the grocery store.
Yeah. You mentioned, utilizing tariffs as a negotiating tactic. As you said, President Trump's done very well versus using it as punitive action. And I agree with you. Against our allies, we definitely don't need to engender any type of hostility from people who we have close working relationships with. But is there a possibility to you that this is the negotiating tactic, that President Trump may be speaking about it punitively, but it really is just the negotiation?
Well, keep in mind, we're negotiating for Greenland, and we're penalizing other countries that really have nothing to do with Greenland. In our discussion point about whether we're taking over, whether we're using Greenland, whether we're adding bases, all that stuff is a negotiation with Greenland, not a negotiation with our friends and allies around Greenland. So that's what I fear. If they find other places to buy goods that they get from the United States, I mean, it's not going to end up being a good thing for the American consumer.
Okay, so the latest we've heard is that Denmark, their view of this is that constructive talks have moved forward. That obviously is a good sign for all moving forward. They said that we are back on track. Do you think that's accurate? And what do you think the overall outcome is in all of this?
Look, I do think that having Greenland for the United States is something that we were talking about even when I was in Congress. It's a way of protecting us from that northern area that Russia and China, not that they're in Greenland, but they're all over the Arctic. And we really do need to make sure we have the capabilities of controlling that airspace, of controlling the military bases there, which we do right now. And we need to make sure that's long-term, even if we don't secure and take over that country, which I don't think, if the country's not willing to, if the country doesn't want to come in this direction, let's just make sure that we negotiate with Denmark to have all the capabilities to control the airspace and basically have our military bases there and none other. I think that would be the best outcome, and I think that's what President Trump is trying to do.
Congressman, before I let you go, I have never seen these ads before. They just started popping up in the last week or so, but I saw some recruitment ads for Arctic Angels. They would be our first line of defense in the northern Arctic. Any connection?
No, but it's kind of interesting. I've had people say to me, you should go up and buy some land in Greenland. It's going to be worth a lot of money someday when we start to add population there. I think it's too cold for population, for many more people than are there right now, but it's an interesting place.
Listen, as someone who is not enjoying this 16 degrees here in Washington, I wouldn't vote for anyone to have to go there and habitate there. But Congressman, always a pleasure having you with us. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Likewise. All righty. The Trump administration is working very hard to fix our nation's schools, so we're going to explain what they are doing next.
Hey, folks, some economists are warning that Trump's team is preparing a gold revaluation to help manage the exploding national debt. It sounds extreme, right? Until you realize it's actually happened once before. In 1934, the U.S. government reset gold's official price and changed the entire financial system overnight. Now it's 2026, and there are warning signs flashing that it might happen again. There's a free new report out called Trump's $24,000 panic button that explains how this could play out and what it means for your savings, your retirement. Here's one fact that'll blow your mind. The Treasury still values America's gold at just $42 an ounce. But the real market price, it's over $4,000 right now. That gap could be used to reprice gold and rebalance the books. If that happens, gold could skyrocket. And surprisingly, the math behind it all is rock solid. Get the full story and discover how to protect your retirement today. Call 855-465-3340 or visit johnlikesgold.com. That's my website to get your free copy. That's 855 465-3340 or johnlikesgold.com.
At Real America's Voice, we know that you want to be a part of something bigger. That's why we've teamed up with AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, to build a real community of folks who care about faith and our country's future.
There is no force on earth that can stop us from saving our country.
Want to be a part of this movement? It's easy. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now. That's right. Grab your phone and scan the QR code to join the AMAC and Real America's Voice family today. By scanning the QR code, you'll unlock exclusive content, connect with like-minded Americans, and be first in line for events that celebrate our shared values. So don't wait. Scan the QR code. Join us today and become part of a community that stands for faith, family, and freedom.
Real rights, they come from God.
With AMAC and Real America's Voice. Go ahead. Scan the QR code now.
Hey folks, it's your friend John Rich. I co-founded Old Glory Bank because we heard too many stories about people getting canceled by their bank because they didn't agree with their politics. The government wanted to know where you shop. If you bought a Bible or you shopped at a sporting goods store, you're probably on a list. We created Old Glory Bank because America needed a bank that would protect their privacy and security. Exercising your constitutional rights is not a criminal activity, and neither is loving your country. At Old Glory Bank, we stand with you.
I'm a J6er. I spent 1,143 days in prison.
About a year in prison.
We were prosecuted, persecuted.
J6ers have been treated like terrorists.
And we need your help.
Stand in the Gap was founded to stand in the gap for J6ers working to rebuild their lives after being incarcerated.
For just $10 or more, you can help these patriots get back on their feet again. Every dollar you give is being matched up to $50,000. Go now to j6support.com and donate.
Welcome back, everybody, to Just the News, No Noise. For generations, a child's education has been largely determined by their zip code. If you lived in a wealthy neighborhood, you were likely to find very well-funded schools. And by contrast, of course, if you lived in a low-income area, the schools were not as well-funded as those that were in more affluent neighborhoods. Now, the entire education system has been flipped on its head due to President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill, and thanks to innovative technology, families can now provide the best education for their child, how they see fit. But how? Joining us to discuss this is someone at the forefront of education, CEO and president of Optima Ed, Adam Mangana. Adam, thank you so much for being with us. I know you talked about the golden age of education. Tell us what that is.
Amanda, thank you so much for having me. You know, you're exactly right. Our parents already know instinctually that the biggest hidden monopoly in education is geography. And this golden era in education really is defined by the ESA, the Educational Savings Account, where we can decouple where your zip code is from what you will have access to, and where solutions like Optima Academy Online, the world's first school in the metaverse, a classical school that takes time-tested content and marries it to this new and engaging medium, can transform access to an incredible world-class education for families, completely tuition-free and affordable. This is the era that the Big Beautiful Bill will bring in and usher in for families all over the United States.
That's so cool. But how on earth is it tuition-free?
Well, this is the power, right? So these educational savings accounts allow for the money now to follow the child. For so long in our country, the money was centralized. Now it is decentralized, and it is issued through the families, through educational savings accounts. And so they can apply this $10,000, for example, in the state of Texas, $30,000 if your family has a student with learning exceptionalities. Now those dollars are going to put some market forces on providers like me to make sure that those prices are accessible, and most importantly, that those student outcomes are felt by families.
Yeah. Adam, it's been so interesting to see a lot of things happen under the Trump administration. Things get flipped on their heads. I mean, the food pyramid is now completely inverted, and education is the same way. And it's interesting because you see something like education savings accounts where the money follows the child, so the parents can make the best decision for what is going to edify and teach their child the most. And yet it has become so partisan. Republicans have, by and large, supported this. Democrats, I think, used to, but it doesn't seem like they are as on board as they used to be. Why is that?
Yeah, I think it's a messaging issue primarily. I think you think about it, the power of turning every mom and dad into the CEO of their child's education should be nonpartisan, right? The idea that we can empower families who know and love that very best child to be able to deliver on the very best solution, right? That is the power of the educational savings account. That's the power of School Choice Week. And that knows no political party, to be quite frank with you. We want a world in which no matter where you're born in this country, no matter what your creed, your background, as long as you're an American citizen, you can have access to a world-class education or an opportunity like what we're doing at Optima Academy Online. And it's exciting that the Trump administration has empowered families through access to these dollars in ways that have never existed in our country's history.
Absolutely. When it comes to Optima Academy, so if a parent says, okay, I want to do this, is it like a cafeteria lineup where they pick and choose the curriculum, they pick and choose the subjects for their kid? How does it work?
Yeah, great question. So it's really an exciting opportunity now. We're a virtual instruction provider, so you can actually take courses you need, or we can be the school of record, for example. The power of this immersive tool is we're solving for student engagement. This is a very different tool than the kind of traditional online model where you're in the checkerboard of faces. What we've done is built a school in the metaverse where students can actually show up, go back in time to the founding of our country, interview Benjamin Franklin, learn the true history of our country. You remember the old magic school bus? We're turning the world's best teachers into Miss Frizzle and engaging students in ways you've never seen before through the power of technology.
Oh, man, Miss Frizzle, that is a name I have not heard in a long time. Okay, so where is this available? Can anybody do it from anywhere?
Great question. So right now, there are several states that are offering universal educational savings accounts. Any place that there is a universal educational savings account, the largest of those states being Florida and Texas, families have access to these dollars. But they're right now in 17 states, Arizona, North Carolina, Utah. There are several states that are allowing for these opportunities for families. But the way to learn more about it is visit www.Optima Academy Online, and we will be happy, even if Optima is not the right fit, to give you more information about those educational savings accounts so you can find the right fit for your child.
I love that. Okay, so let me ask you this, because it sounds like an individual, a parent can sign their kid up for this. They can curate the curriculum for their kid. But what if there are parents out there who say, okay, I really like this idea. I have like-minded parents around me and a community, and we all want our kids to learn the same things, but I don't have time to get into this. Can you have like a conglomerate of people do it together?
Yes, and that's the biggest trend we're seeing. This is the fastest growing school approach in the country is these kind of homeschool conglomerates or micro schools, some people are calling them. The great thing is these dollars are so flexible that those families can do it together. They can decouple what has been kind of custodial care from the direct instruction. So if they want to do it in a micro school or in someone's home, or in an actual physical school building, or with everyone at their home so they can spend more time with their child. The great thing about our solution is it has that flexibility. So people can purchase courses, or they can purchase the entire school of record and actually get a degree from Optima Academy Online, which has been accredited by Cognia. We had the highest growth scores last year in the state of Florida. So it's a model that really promises the student outcomes and the structure and accountability that parents who value an educational model of success really appreciate.
I think that's really beautiful. I remember when I was growing up, homeschool kids were kind of weird. They were kind of the outcasts. They were either the bad kids who got kicked out of school, or they were kind of the uber religious kids who were kind of isolated from the rest of the community. It is not that way anymore. What do you attribute that change to?
Yeah, no, this is a tremendous point you're making. It's not your grandmama's homeschool, it is school at home. What the market is demanding, Amanda, is a more modular school and course delivery, because people want almost everything on the go. They want the flexibility and they want the dynamism. And most importantly, they want the hyper personalization that's going to serve their child best. And this is why those two innovations, the innovation around an educational savings account and that flexibility for the money to follow the child, along with the innovation of immersive technology, which is going to engage the child and make the online experience more human. The marriage of those two technologies is going to continue to drive adoption. We're seeing, within our own story, we've doubled every year for 4 years. We're the fastest growing school in the United States, as well as the student outcomes pieces, making sure that students are learning. There's a curriculum crisis in this country with test scores, and for us to have the kind of growth scores that have been something that parents have raved about online has been really humbling. My quick personal testimony: my daughter, when she entered our school online, Optima Academy Online, she was 2 grade levels behind. She's in 6th grade now, reading on a 9th grade level, and so I that's my own personal testimony about the incredible gift that has been Optima Academy Online for my family.
That is just, I love that. That's so great. And I feel like you hear that all the time from students who are struggling in a classroom environment, and then they come home and they're spending less time in the classroom and they're getting better test grades. They're reading at higher levels. It's just really, really beautiful to see. CEO and president of Optima Ed, Adam Mangana, thanks so much for being with us tonight.
Amanda, you do an incredible job. Thank you for having me.
You as well, sir. Thank you so much. All right, everybody, coming up next, there's a lot of talk about the economy, and while President Trump is doing a great job on a number of fronts, there's still some concerns, so we're going to explain after the break.
At Real America's Voice, we know that you want to be a part of something bigger. That's why we've teamed up with AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, to build a real community of folks who care about faith and our country's future.
There is no force on earth that can stop us from saving our country.
Want to be a part of this movement? It's easy. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now. That's right. Grab your phone and scan the QR code to join the AMAC and Real America's Voice family today. By scanning the QR code, you'll unlock exclusive content, connect with like-minded Americans, and be first in line for events that celebrate our shared values. So don't wait. Scan the QR code. Join us today and become part of a community that stands for faith, family, and freedom.
Real rights, they come from God.
With AMAC and Real America's Voice. Go ahead. Scan the QR code now.
Hey folks, it's your friend John Rich. I co-founded Old Glory Bank because we heard too many stories about people getting canceled by their bank because they didn't agree with their politics. The government wanted to know where you shopped. If you bought a Bible or you shopped at a sporting goods store, you're probably on a list. We created Old Glory Bank because America needed a bank that would protect their privacy and security. Exercising your constitutional rights is not a criminal activity, and neither is loving your country. At Old Glory Bank, we stand with you.
I'm a J6er. I spent 1,143 days in prison.
About a year in prison.
We were prosecuted, persecuted.
J6ers have been treated like terrorists.
And we need your help.
Stand in the Gap was founded to stand in the gap for J6ers working to rebuild their lives after being incarcerated.
For just $10 or more, you can help these patriots get back on their feet again. Every dollar you give is being matched up to $50,000. Go now to j6support.com and donate.
Welcome back, everybody, to Just the News, No Noise. We're going to throw the screen up there. This is the red carpet for Melania. That is the film of the First Lady, a documentary. I believe it covers 20 days of her life, and I'm sure you have seen the trailers. It looks absolutely fascinating. And President Trump, of course, is going to be there celebrating and supporting his wife, the First Lady. So as soon as President Trump and the First Lady take the red carpet, we will take you straight out there. But in the meantime, 1 in 5 office buildings in this country now sits empty. I'm sure you have seen it in your own towns. It especially happens in big cities. And many experts believe that this could be a warning sign of deeper troubles in the economy. So joining us to break it down is the CEO of American Alternative Assets, Shannon Davis, great friend of the show. Shannon, great to see you.
Yeah, great to see you again. Thank you for having me.
So, my husband and I, we have our base in Los Angeles, and I remember seeing this in Culver City, on the west side, even in downtown Los Angeles. These buildings, big, gorgeous buildings, but they're just sitting empty. And I know that there's something referred to as the Ghost Tower Index. What is it, and why does it matter to the future?
Yeah, definitely. It's everywhere. It's in every city, every major city. Yeah. The Ghost Tower Index, it tracks the commercial real estate market, which most people don't realize is over $3 trillion in size. Right now, 20.7% of office buildings are vacant. That's the highest ever on record. Nearly $1 trillion in loans tied to those buildings come due this year. If enough of those loans go bad, it could hit hundreds of regional banks. And when that happens, it's kind of like a stack of dominoes falling. Banks pull back lending, stocks react, confidence drops. It's potentially a huge chain reaction, and it starts with empty buildings.
Yeah, it's been terrifying to see. How long has this trend been happening? Because I feel like I was seeing it in Los Angeles 7-8 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, it really started happening post-COVID, right? And a lot of things have happened post-COVID that we still haven't recovered from. It's eye-opening, really, to see the stats up close, and that's what we've been digging into, and we're going to obviously offer that to your viewers after this. But it means that to be positioned before this type of panic is really where we're focusing, and why we want to educate people out there, because when banks start to wobble, so do markets. Central banks are buying gold. Record pace right now, right? This is what we always talk about. Gold's over $5,400 now. Silver's over $117. I'm looking at the numbers right now. So, it's about preparing for, a lot of dominoes falling here soon.
Gosh, I feel like it was not that long ago when you could buy 1 troy ounce. You could buy like the American Eagle Liberty coin or whatever it's called for like $2,700. Okay, so I hear you that this is going to have devastating effects. I know. I hear you that this is going to be pretty bad for banks, for the lending institutions, the credit unions, whoever that is. But what does it mean for regular Americans who are just trying to keep their finances in check and protect their retirement?
Yeah, there's some exposure there. There's a lot of uncertainty. Obviously, we're making big leaps and strides with what Trump's doing. But, at the end of the day, we still have almost $39 trillion in debt. This is more of it. There's a ton of unrealized losses. So it's going to start creeping into their retirement portfolios. And this is why we've put together a free guide called the Ghost Tower Index that explains what's happening and how to protect a portion of your retirement with physical gold and silver in just 48 hours. It's really simple stuff. And, we invite people to call in and speak to us. Number's 855-GOLD-340. Get your free copy. And you also know johnlikesgold.com is another great place to get that guide. It's free. And we can always help you, dissect it as well.
Absolutely. And Amanda likes John Likes Gold. I absolutely love that website. CEO of American Alternative Assets, Shannon Davis. Thanks so much for being with us tonight.
Thanks for having me again. Have a great day.
Always. All right, everybody, to our viewers, as our friend Shannon put it, if you want an explanation of what's happening in the commercial real estate market and you want to protect your own retirement, get the Ghost Tower Index Guide right now. So go over to johnlikesgold.com or call 855-GOLD-340 to get your copy. That is johnlikesgold.com or 855-GOLD-340. All right, coming up next, we are going to discuss the pro-life movement sweeping across the nation. More on that on the other side.
Real America's Voice is growing, and now it's all in one place. Introducing the new and improved RAV app, built for access, community, and choice, not paywalls. Here's the key. RAV is still free to watch. No sign-in, no membership required. Your favorite live streams, breaking coverage, and video on demand are all right there. Free, just like always.
For the War Room Posse, we have to be a force multiplier on this. We have to stick the landing.
In the White House, in the Oval Office, you're crushing it, my friend.
And if you want more, the members section is your backstage pass. Get exclusive behind-the-scenes photos and videos, insider moments from the studio and the field, and early access to new content before it goes public. Members can also unlock special experiences like virtual meet and greets, member-only auctions, and select event access. Plus, commercial-free viewing of certain shows inside the app. It's not just an app, it's a community. Download the RAV app today. Find it in the App Store and Google Play. At Real America's Voice, we know that you want to be a part of something bigger. That's why we've teamed up with AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, to build a real community of folks who care about faith and our country's future.
There is no force on earth that can stop us from saving our country.
Want to be a part of this movement? It's easy. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now. That's right. Grab your phone and scan the QR code to join the AMAC and Real America's Voice family today. By scanning the QR code, you'll unlock exclusive content, connect with like-minded Americans, and be first in line for events that celebrate our shared values. So don't wait. Scan the QR code. Join us today and become part of a community that stands for faith, family, and freedom.
Real rights, they come from God.
With AMAC and Real America's Voice. Go ahead. Scan the QR code now.
Hey folks, it's your friend John Rich. I co-founded Old Glory Bank because we heard too many stories about people getting canceled by their bank because they didn't agree with their politics. The government wanted to know where you shopped. If you bought a Bible or you shopped at a sporting goods store, you're probably on a list. We created Old Glory Bank because America needed a bank that would protect their privacy and security. Exercising your constitutional rights is not a criminal activity, and neither is loving your country. At Old Glory Bank, we stand with you.
I'm a J6er. I spent 1,143 days in prison.
About a year in prison.
We were prosecuted, persecuted.
J6ers have been treated like terrorists.
And we need your help.
Stand in the Gap was founded to stand in the gap for J6ers working to rebuild their lives after being incarcerated.
For just $10 or more, you can help these patriots get back on their feet again. Every dollar you give is being matched up to $50,000. Go now to j6support.com and donate.
Welcome back, everybody, to Just the News, No Noise. Last week, citizens around the nation gathered to support the pro-life movement by taking part in the March for Life demonstrations to protest in favor of the unborn. Now, as the president continues to demonstrate his support for the faith community, leftist rhetoric continues to undermine Christian values in some pretty disturbing ways. So joining us to discuss this and more is the CEO and president of 40 Days for Life, Sean Carney. Sean, great to see you. Thanks so much for being here.
It's good to be back. Thanks for having me.
You know, Sean, it is very hard for me to understand why the heartbeat of this country, the Judeo-Christian values that our country was founded on, continue to be attacked, personified in people like you and me who are believers. Jennifer Welch, I think she's a podcaster, but she's a Democrat activist. I want you to watch what she said.
Evangelical Christianity is a cancer. These are the worst of our country. These are the worst people in our country because they use their religion in two ways, as a weapon and as a shield. They weaponize it whenever they want to and say, we're on the moral high ground. You're a lesbian. You deserve to die. You're a lesbian. The cops shouldn't have revived you. Oh, your parents are Mexicans and they brought you over here. Yeah, you should go to jail and eat worm food. And then when you call them out on it, oh my God. They're after the Christians. How dare they? How dare they? We're so oppressed. White Christians are so oppressed in this country. And they want it both ways because in the religion, that duplicity is taught.
Sean, I know a lot of Christians, and I know them in a lot of different cities because I've lived in Los Angeles, I've lived in Washington, I've lived in Birmingham, Alabama, Auburn, Alabama, Nashville, Tennessee, and about a half dozen other. And I don't know a single believer who thinks that about lesbians or Mexicans or anyone else for that matter.
Yeah, but you skipped the best part, which is I've never heard anybody on any belief system demand that you go to prison to eat worm food. That was the golden part of that entire segment. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to have to find that clip online and rewatch it every day. It's just ridiculous. And even on the immigration, she's like, oh, you're Mexican. I mean, I grew up Catholic in East Texas. It was 2% Catholic, my home diocese. So all of our parishioners were from Mexico. You know, they were very religious and very devout. It's really ridiculous. And it's the threat of religion, because religion makes you, gives you the option to change your life for the better, and to be tolerant of certain things and intolerant of sin. And it's so objective, and that's why they hate it. And it's really amazing when you see, you know, the March for Life last week and the West Coast Walk for Life in San Francisco, so many people coming out and not listening to that garbage that you just played, and not being afraid, and living their faith and evangelizing a world that is starving for truth, that is starving for Christ, and that is starving for virtue and decency. And that's what Christianity offers. And, you know, you either, I guess you have to hate it if you don't like that. But I know a lot of atheists that don't hate Christians and think that we're a bunch of bigots. And so I think it's a ridiculous thing being portrayed in the media.
Absolutely. And they almost always seem to hone in on the abortion argument. But it's amazing because they're not on the side of the people. 67% of Americans support legal limits on abortion. 84% support pregnancy centers helping mothers and babies. 88% believe laws can protect both mom and child. So it seems to me that, you know, if this is an 80-20, a 75-25 issue, they're on the wrong side of it. And most of the time, it's more than an 80-20 issue.
Yeah, and they're getting killed with Gen Z, because Gen Z is the most pro-life generation at their age than any previous generation at that age. And it's because they're the first full generation where they all have multiple copies of their own ultrasound. And that's why the abortion argument has just, they've had to abandon science. But you can't do that. And science wins out and common sense wins out, and abortion kills a baby. That's the point of it. And a lot of people are uncomfortable with that, and they don't want to live with their head in the sand and say that it's a clump of cells. So I think that that's been very positive. Also, these pro-life policies that have gone to the states since the overturning of Roe, like allocating, I know in Texas, we allocate $250 million for single moms who choose life. North Carolina, I think, does $100 million. These programs to actually support not the abortion industry, but to support life and to support having children. And no president has been more of a champion for the pro-life cause or for supporting children than Donald Trump. And a lot of this comes from their hatred of him as well.
Of course, yeah. In fact, he had a message for the March for Life. I'm going to read it for everybody. For 53 years, students, families, patriots, and believers have come to Washington from every corner of the country to defend the infinite worth and God-given dignity of every human life. This is a battle that must be fought, must be won, not only in the corridors of power, but above all in the hearts and souls of the people. Do you think that the hearts and souls of Americans are moving in the right direction when it comes to the issue of life? We got 30 seconds, by the way.
I do, and I think we saw a very tangible example of that in 2024 when you had the fall of Roe. This was the year that we were going to elect the first female president. She ran on abortion. They celebrated abortion at the DNC. She talked about abortion. She made it her #1 issue, and Kamala lost handedly. People did not want to get beat over the head with abortion. Even those who support it do so passively, and they really don't want to talk about it, and they don't want to have it shoved in their face. And for so many people over so many generations that have converted and become pro-life, and that conversion gate only swings in one direction, and it's towards life. And that's why we're winning, not only at the state level, but at the hearts and minds level, which is the most important.
Yeah, and I agree with you, especially with Gen Z. I mean, that's the first generation that at 6 weeks could see that heartbeat. It was it's so accessible nowadays, and I think that's been a game changer. CEO and president of 40 Days for Life, Sean Carney, always an honor having you with us. And that's all that we have time for tonight, but we're going to be back here tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Eastern.
At Real America's Voice, we know that you want to be a part of something bigger. That's why we've teamed up with AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, to build a real community of folks who care about faith and our country's future.
There is no force on earth that can stop us from saving our country.
Want to be a part of this movement? It's easy. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now. That's right. Grab your phone and scan the QR code to join the AMAC and Real America's Voice family today. By scanning the QR code, you'll unlock exclusive content, connect with like-minded Americans and be first in line for events that celebrate our shared values. So don't wait. Scan the QR code. Join us today and become part of a community that stands for faith, family, and freedom.
Real rights, they come from God.
With AMAC and Real America's Voice. Go ahead, scan the QR code now.
Hey folks, it's your friend John Rich. I co-founded Old Glory Bank because we heard too many stories about people getting canceled by their bank because they didn't agree with their politics. The government wanted to know where you shop. If you bought a Bible or you shopped at a sporting goods store, you're probably on a list. We created Old Glory Bank because America needed a bank that would protect their privacy and security. Exercising your constitutional rights is not a criminal activity, and neither is loving your country. At Old Glory Bank, we stand with you.